Hi, I'm Charlie Galdona, and this is Winning Attitude for Entrepreneurs. Today, I'm delighted to have a guest of honor. He will definitely inspire all of us, Mr. David Beckett. David Beckett is the world guru on pitching, creator of the Pitching Canvas, author, coach with his best 3 minutes methodology, international speaker, and above all, entrepreneur. He has trained around 1,000 startups and more than 13,000 professionals. He's a winner of multiple prizes, such as the Freelancer of the Year and Present Your Startup in 2019. Hi, David.
Thanks very much, Charlie. Nice to be here, and thanks for that glowing introduction.
Yeah, it's nice to talk a little bit about my guests, but yeah, you definitely need no introduction. Yeah, thank you very much for coming. And
Sure.
yeah, I one of the things that we touch in the podcast is, well, I talk about the winning attitude,
Yes.
and I make a lot of emphasis on the attitude of entrepreneurs. I think it's a very important um, attribute, a very important thing to have
Yeah, I agree.
and to work on. And you talk on your book about pitch to win.
Yes.
How do you relate the attitude of the people that are going to pitch to the success of the final pitch?
Well, I think I can go right back to some of the first advice I got for pitching. My
Yeah,
first boss, I worked for Canon for 16 years. My first boss there was a guy called Lance Miller, and Lance had worked in advertising for 20 years.
yeah,
And he always told me, if they expect a page of A4, give them a document. If they want a document, give them a presentation. If they're expecting a presentation, give them the best pitch they've ever seen. And I think that mentality of always going one step further, of having a mindset, this is going to be an amazing quality communication, and going for that from the very beginning, I think it's really key to making that a success. I think pitching to win means, being professional, being organized, and doing more than they expect. 3-minute pitch, you can do an incredible amount of work for a
yeah,
stupidly small amount of time, but it
exactly.
always pays off.
Yeah,
And it's always a case of attitude. It's always that mindset of, do I want to go above and beyond? Do I want to make it better than they could possibly expect? And if you do, that always wins through. It always shines through.
yeah, definitely. You will later. We can talk about a little bit about the methodology and how you sharpen the knife into getting the message through.
Sure.
Definitely, I'm a Latin American and I come from Uruguay, and we like to talk and make it long, and it's very
Mm,
difficult for us to be concise and to put through an idea in 3 minutes.
sure.
At least the whole idea of the business. We want to talk about the whole story, how we started, and
Yeah.
everything. And so, one of the things that I really appreciate from your methodology, I actually followed it, and I really recommend it. It's the best3minutes.com. You can find a lot of material there. What I really like is how you can narrow the most important things, like really take the most
Yes.
important things, and maybe you need to cut other things. Maybe you fall in love with your whole business and idea and you want to talk about everything,
Absolutely.
but you really need to focus on your audience. Who are you going to talk to, and what are you pitching, and what's the objective of that pitch?
Absolutely. That's really the starting point, I think, of any pitch, in any communication, but especially in the pitch, because you want to get into the mind of the people who are going to be listening. So a lot of people are very focused on what's the story that I want to tell, but
Yeah,
actually what we want is some action from the people that we're pitching to. So in order to get them to take some action, we need to try and think, well, what's on their minds? What's bothering them? What will interest them about my story? Because we always have more than enough to talk about.
yeah.
So the key is to select the things that will resonate with their interests and what's on their mind.
Really good. David, I want to make a little challenge for you.
Sure.
I would love you to tell me a little bit of your story, but maybe we can do it on a pitch.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, you do a lot of 3 minute pitches, but maybe we can do it in 1 minute.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I can put the start, the clock. And
Put the clock
my
pressure.
idea is to, if you can talk a little bit about why you became the best known pitch coach of the world, and how did you end up doing this as your way of life?
Well, I think there were three big things. The first one was to get connected with a network that really is knowledgeable about the topic. So I got connected with the Startup Bootcamp network, and I didn't just work with some of the startups. I went to all the events. I went to the network events, the investor meetings, and so on. I spoke to investors, spoke to startups, trying to find out, what do these people want to tell? What do these people want to hear? And I drank every word out of those meetings. The second thing was being ruthlessly focused on helping my people shine. And my goal is not break people down, tell them how clever I am. I'm only successful if my clients absolutely shine. And that's always my focus. And then the third thing is really, work hard, be humble, and be professional. And the humble part comes from, being prepared to learn at every step, never believing that I've got it right. I'm working towards it always, but I think that is really important for anybody in business.
Really, thank you very much. Yeah,
Just about
definitely,
1 minute.
it's perfect. In 1 minute, you can explain. If we would be on an elevator, yeah, it would make it. At least I would want to, when we get out, continue chatting with you. That's
Sure.
the main goal, at least.
Yeah, and that's the goal of any pitch, is to
Yeah.
get people to engage with you, ask you more questions, find out more. You have a longer conversation later, but the pitch is the door opener for sure.
I now that you said humbleness, I think it's a very important attribute for all entrepreneurs. I
Definitely.
remember when we were on the final of Present Your Startup, I was drinking some wine on the bar with other entrepreneurs and investors, and networking basically. And I looked across, there was a big glass, and I looked across the glass. You were going to pitch for the final,
Mm-hmm.
and you weren't drinking any wine, or you were practicing once and again and walking, coming back and forth. And I have that image because you're definitely super trained. You trained thousands of people. You know your game. You know what to do, and you know what's expected. But you were still training, and that was 10 minutes before coming on stage. What's the deal with training at that level?
Well, I think that some people think that you can over practice, but I've seen, I've trained on TEDx events, for example. One thing really sticks in my mind. I was training at TEDx CERN in Switzerland, and there was a person there who's actually a comedian. She was doing a kind of a comedy, telling jokes and singing and so on. And she did a run through the day before the event, and it was amazing. People were just almost on the floor laughing. She was perfect in the run through. And the following day in the morning, some hours before her performance, I saw her practicing, and she was moving and mouthing things and taking shapes and so. And I went to her colleague and I said, "Wow, she's still practicing. I thought she was amazing." Yes, and he said, "She just wants it to be muscle memory. She doesn't want to have to think when she's up there. She wants it to be the most natural thing in the world." And I realized that that's where that edge comes from, where you believe that you still haven't got it right when you've got it right, that you keep trying to make it better, finding a different way, a slight improvement in communication, in emphasis, in energy. So I think, music performers, theater performers, film performers, they do that attitude. I think you have to have that attitude as well for your pitch. It's not just let's go up there and tell a story. This is your moment. So I think, I counted actually. I did, before the day, I did 37 run throughs the day before at the 3-minute pitch. And I was happy round about run through 28 or something.
Are you, David, yourself a perfectionist, or you're looking for excellence somehow?
No, funny enough, I'm not a perfectionist. I was once told, surprisingly, my Japanese manager, 90% done on time is better than 100%
Yeah.
too late. So I'm very much the person that let's get something done and get some feedback.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when it comes to presentation, that I've always had a higher level of expectation than in every other part of my work. Of course, a lot of things are presentation. Could be an email, could be a one-page document. So anything where I'm presenting to people, I take much more time. So I am a perfectionist in that respect, but a lot of other things I'm very prepared to just get something done and see what happens. So I try to adapt a little bit.
Talking about the times we are going through, this turbulent times,
Yes,
it's like a storm. How do you see yourself? Because you're an entrepreneur yourself too. How
absolutely.
are you navigating this storm?
Well, I heard from the founder of Airbnb a phrase a few weeks ago, which is pivot to where the world's going.
Mhm.
And so where is the world going? It's not going back to face-to-face work tomorrow or
Yeah.
next week or next month. Who knows? Maybe not even next year. I spoke to somebody in New York recently, and they said, we're not expecting to go back to a normal work this year. So we're on a long-term change. So as soon as lockdown happened here in the Netherlands, I started thinking, well, what's people's biggest challenge? And very quickly it became clear in terms of presenting is
Yeah.
presenting online. So using video conferencing tools, you lose the connection with the audience. So how do you replace that? And so on. So I started trying to identify that. So I think the first thing for me personally was pivot to, basic principle is help people get their ideas out into the world.
Yeah.
But the method that they're doing that is different.
Yeah.
So
So
I need to
your
adapt
why
that.
is still. I was listening
Yeah,
to Simon Sinek yesterday. He made a short video. It's really nice because he's always talking about the start with why and the
absolutely.
importance of your why. But he said, remember, this is the center of your why, and you can pivot around, keeping your why there.
Yeah,
So what you're going to change is your how, but your why will
absolutely.
still be always the same.
That's precisely it. The goal is always help people be understood, be heard, to get the action that they need, get clarity on what their story is. And now they have a different set of challenges because, for example, when you're presenting in front of an audience,
Yeah.
nerves are one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah.
But nerves are really different when it comes to online presenting. It changes a lot. People
Yeah.
are
You have
less
this
nervous
shield. Yeah.
about, yeah, they're less nervous about the, let's say, the performance part or forgetting
Yeah.
their story, those kind of things. But they have more challenges with technology.
Yeah.
And should I make a same presentation as I do when I'm face to face, or should it be different? How can I use my voice better because they can't really see me so well? So these are different challenges, and I'm constantly every day I'm doing research. I'm
Yeah.
trying to find what is it that people find difficult, and how can I translate that into workshops and so on. And that's what I've been doing. I've given a lot of webinars and
Yeah.
workshops
Yeah,
for people.
actually, I've seen that you're giving a free webinar next week. That
Yes,
would be nice to for the entrepreneurs listening and watching now also. Yeah, you can maybe tell a little bit about that webinar besides the whole platform that we can talk later.
sure. So actually, there's already 500 people signed up,
Yeah.
which is pretty amazing. Of course, not everybody turns up, but I'm delighted
Yeah.
there's so much interest. And it's all about online presenting. And I start from the principle of you normally have a set of tools. You lose some of those tools. You have an additional challenge of technology. So which are the things that you should focus on, and how can you do them? And I'm not so much on the kind of mindset thing.
Yeah.
I have a little bit on that, but
Yeah.
I'm very much on the practical things that you can do.
What to do?
So
Yeah.
there are
Tips and
practical
tricks.
things that people can actually the action people can take to improve their online presentation. And these are things I've given this webinar now for various companies and
Yeah.
organizations. And I thought it was a good moment to do this for an open audience to share a
It's
lot of tools to get it out there.
really good. Where can they find it, David? And in your website?
Yeah, so just go to best3minutes.com. There'll be a link at the top of the page. That link will be on the end of the day. It's mostly been with my mailing list, and then it's being published there as well. So,
Thank you very much. Yes, one of the things I get a lot from the entrepreneurs, starting entrepreneurs, is that they think that you need to be born with this kind of talent
Mhm.
to talk, to be a public speaker, to explain
Yeah,
things, to sell. And yeah, I believe that you do need to have a little bit of it, but you can work on it a lot also. What do
definitely.
you think about it?
Yeah, so I think um, there is an element of talent, but there is a large chunk of hard work. And I've seen people, at Startup Bootcamp, I've coached some teams where halfway through the program, it's a
Yeah,
12-week program, and halfway through, they have an investor sneak preview. And I've had people who have barely been able to speak,
yeah,
who can almost, they're talking about something they work on day in, day out. But when they're given that 4-minute pitch or 3-minute pitch and the time is ticking, they blank out.
yeah,
And it's what feels normal, it just suddenly becomes impossible. And 6 weeks later, they've stood in front of 400 people on a demo day, and it's like it's been their home. And I have a couple of examples along the way with people that have agreed that I can share that. I've written a couple of blogs on that where you
yeah,
see the before and after. So I don't think those people got inspired as such. They didn't suddenly discover their talent. They just worked.
yeah.
Now, there's definitely some people that have more of a kind of a outgoing character. It's more suited. But in the end, there's almost nobody that can stand up and present successfully, consistently, with no preparation.
So it's
And
something that you develop. Yeah, definitely. There's a
absolutely,
lot of fear of presenting, and yeah, you need to work on it. And
yeah,
yeah, it's I think it's being able to pitch somehow. Maybe not being able to speak in public. Maybe that's something
mm,
of a challenge, not for everybody, but there's people that can work on it.
yeah,
But being able to pitch, at least in small groups, at least, and yeah, as an entrepreneur, you need it. Otherwise,
yeah,
it's
definitely.
impossible to sell anything. Yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to succeed if you can't pitch. And investors tell me the same thing. They're looking, if you want to pitch, they're not asking, seeing if you can pitch them. They're looking to see, can you convince everybody?
yeah, yeah,
So the
yeah, yeah.
way that you pitch to a VC, to an investor, they're not just looking for, well, am I convinced? They want to feel, how can you share that story? How can you bring that story and get a
Yeah.
movement around you, get people to believe in what you're doing?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Yeah,
where it's,
I
yeah,
had it in also in startup bootcamp on at the beginning of the program. The companies pitch to the mentors, and they try to explain what they are doing, and
mm,
obviously afterwards they develop much better the pitch. But the companies I chose to mentor are usually because the entrepreneur is there with a huge attitude. Maybe they need to polish a lot of things, and maybe the whole business will pivot 20 times later. But the attitude at the beginning, I really value it. David, I want to
yeah,
talk about well, your partnership with Sheila, your wife. I want to talk about your family. I want to talk about many other things. I suggest we go for a second part of this podcast. Let's have an espresso and join soon in a couple of minutes.
excellent. Thanks, Charlie.
Oh, thank you very much. This was Winning Attitude for Entrepreneurs.